Don't believe it or not, they came loose pretty easy. I'm walking in front of the camera again. Ah, I lost the tool. I don't have the bottom one loose, but the rest of them I just broke loose. Yeah, it's all of them. Yep. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Is it T30? What it ended up being. I'm not saying you have to do this, and I'm not sure this is going to work. These may have tighter clearances than the high the high volume, high pressure milling, whatever it is. And I hate to say, I don't remember the part number. I can give you the part number of this one, but I can't give you the part number of the other milling. It wasn't a lot more than this one, but it was more than I wanted to spend for stock motor. But anyway, I didn't finish the story a second ago on that Malibu. Took it for a drive, and I just happened to run that thing up to about 5,000. I looked down at the oil pressure and was shocked. That thing holds 35 pounds of oil pressure start up at an idle, and really doesn't go below 30 pounds, even hot and stuff, even with the miles that are on it. And mind you, it does have, the oil pump was not replaced. The pickup tube was replaced because I had to put the Holley oil pan on it to fit in the car. So the pickup tube was replaced, window tray was modified, and it has a different oil pan on it. But so it's got a new O-ring in the oil pump, from the pickup tube. But it does, that's it. Nothing else was took apart. I didn't replace timing chain, cam, nothing. I didn't even replace the lifters. Didn't pull the heads. Didn't do any of that stuff. So with that said, I was shocked when I wound that thing up to $5,000. That thing hit 70 pounds of oil pressure. I didn't think. That's a mechanical oil pressure gauge. It's not an electric, it's not a dummy light, it is an actual mechanical gauge. And I was shocked at how much it's what they look like. Back side of the plate. I will let's back on here real quick. This is a, and I think I said this, I'm trying to find a place to put down that isn't covered with something. This is a milling oil pump number M295. I'm not, and obviously I'm not, and this probably will not do what I want it to. I'm trying to think, because center gear stays, I believe, but I think that inner gear has to come out, and I don't remember what all comes out. I hate putting this back on there and then taking it back off again. But what I wanted to do is spin that and show you kind of what it looks like. Yeah, I could put bolts in the back of the crank and turn it that way. This thing doesn't look like it's moving, but obviously it is. So there is a moving internal component there. So that's why, your clearances are important. And I'm just going back straight up and down. I don't have to, it's just habit. Anyway, so this ring stays up this high, and this center gear doesn't actually, it spins but it doesn't move, and this one spins and it really doesn't move, but the way that it interacts with itself is actually what builds the oil pressure. Most of them use the old Gen 1 small blocks. Gen 2s just use two gears exactly the same size, and they just run on each other off of the distributor shaft. The Gen 1s do. Gen 2, you know what, I don't know how the Gen 2s work because I've never had one. I'm talking about the LT1. That's what I'm considering the Gen 2. I assume that's what that is. Never had one. But because it has your OptiSpark distributor in the front, I have no idea what feeds the oil pump. I've never really looked into it, so I do not know. Anyway, okay, so I am gonna take this bolt back out. What they're saying is you loosen this up, put it on there loosely, which I've tightened this up just a bit just to hold it in place. So it's back loose again. You can hear that. Actually see it moving. Need to get these a little closer. You put feeler gauges in, which I bought several of them. I'll probably have to take them apart, so I'll probably shut you back off for a minute. Anyway, you put feeler gauges in. You're actually keeping, you're actually keeping these things from rubbing one way or another. Because like I said, although they don't move, they still come in contact with like this outer gear does ride on the outer part of the case, if that makes any sense. And then I think you put the feeler gauges also in here to keep that centered, and then like I said, then you put them on, I believe it's outside edges. I will double check. You also need to check other references. I am not an expert. I'm an idiot. I'm doing this because it's entertainment, you know, or I guess it's entertainment. Anyway, so that's kind of how you have to do it, I believe. I'm going to double check, and then I'll get back to you when I'm actually doing it. For now, I'm just going to set it back together. But it's kind of how you do them. They're not hard to work on. They're not hard to do. It's just taking something brand new apart to mess with it doesn't make sense to me. And it's really funny. Like I said in the past, I know on the high performance one, you go to the Melling website or whatever you want to do, their YouTube channel, and they'll tell you, okay, now on the high performance one, you got to take this apart and shim this, but understand when you take this apart, it voids all the warranty. You're gonna tell me I have to buy this to modify, but it loses warranty when you want me to modify it? I don't get it, but anyway, I'll be back here in a few minutes. All right. Make sure this thing's finger tight. I'll put this back in. I had to go down and get some more feeler gauges. Some of the ones I had are not designed to be that small. Now, again, you don't have to do it to this particular pump. The Melling is calling that my part number is an M295. They're calling it a 10295, and I believe it was like a 10296 or something like that. It's the high performance. Maybe it was 298. I don't remember now. Anyway, so what they're saying is, with this thing loosely assembled, get some motor oil, take the inner ring, that's this one, and appears that it's the same on both sides. Now that I took it apart and didn't pay attention, there's no markings on it saying that it is or, you know, goes one way or the other. Should be able to pressure either way. Anyway, they're wanting you to roll the ring up. I forgot to put gloves on, so now I'm going to be covered with oil. Put this on, and then 2 to 3 thousandths shims, what they're asking for. I have 3 thousandths, 3 2,000ths, and 3 basically 0.0015. So I got like in between, or just under the two. I also got 25s if I really needed to. I've got 3 of those also. I did go ask the guy at AutoZone about that cam retainer plate being countersunk, and sure enough, 2005 up, they use countersunk heads. 2004 and older use the bolts. So it says 2 to 3 thousandths. I'm grabbing the 2,000ths first, and they say equally space them apart between the ring and the gear, the actual timing gear itself, or whatever you want to call that. And 2,000ths fit in there really well. So still even have a little bit of slop in it. And it says oil and install the outer ring. Now mind you, this is for the high performance. You may have to turn the crank a little bit to get that off, but because I took it off with the crank where it's at, it should have went back where it belonged. And then take the 2 to 3 thousandths. Now mind you, got to buy several of these to take them apart. They're not all that expensive. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but they're like $6-7 a piece or whatever. I'm going to try the 3 thousandths to see if those fit. If not, I'll go down to the 25, which I don't have open, and do the same thing. Set them. There's one. Get that in there. which I kind of anticipated, to me, believe it or not. This is how it works for me. Now, mind you, this is probably not supposed to be this way anyway. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this one is not made to actually do this to it. I am just covering all my bases. Okay, the 3/1000ths are too thick, so I'm going to step down. There's one. Mind you, they need to be evenly spread apart. I'm going to slide that one down there, not too far. There's openings in there for the oil to fuzz is extra, I guess, huh? And there we go. So this is what you're supposed to do if you got the high performance one. This is not. I'm just, like I said, I uncovered my bases. This doesn't take all that long to do. So it's like you might as well just go ahead and do it. And then it says to tighten these down to, if I recall looking at my book, it's 18 foot-pounds. Maybe it's 15. Double check. Okay, I just barely have it done. Let me look at my book. I don't want this to be, again, a question. I want this to be right. General tightening, let's see, camshaft retainer, which I've already done. Cylinder head bolts. Oil pan, oil pump cover bolts, oil pump mold, 18 psi, 18 pounds. I'm walking in front of the camera because that's how I roll. So I'll set this at 18. Let's see, there's 10, 15, 16, 17, 18. Oh, you probably can hear that snap. You might be able to. All right, and I've already done these. These are like 26 or something, but I've already done those. So, okay. Now with that done, these should still slide out without any. I'll start with the bottom one. Yep, came right out. No real big drag. I mean, I can feel it, but it's not hurting anything. So, like I said, I uncovered my bases. I have no doubt I did not have to do that, but I just absolutely do not want this to bite me in the butt again. This is it's getting awful expensive to keep messing around, if you follow me. So I'm going to put a little oil on the back side of this plate before I put it on there. There was no Loctite on these bolts, so. And one thing that I don't appreciate about AutoZone, which I'm not cussing AutoZone, they're really good to me, but is that they don't carry any break-in oil. I'm gonna have to go to Riley's. There's nothing wrong with Riley's. I just don't shop there very often. When you get such a good deal for one place and you're there all the time, they cut you pretty good deals, you know, most of the time. So you just, to me, you just kind of continue to go back. And I've gone through kind of the whole gamut over the years of going through one part store after the next, and then that one will aggravate me and I'll go to a different one, and it just finally gets to the point where I shop a lot online, and I hate doing that. It's really not what I like doing, but good grief, you can't beat the prices. I mean, there's some things that you just absolutely cannot get without going bankrupt if you try to buy it from a local parts store or dealership. Now, I've found that in a lot of cases, sometimes the dealership is around the same price as some of the parts stores are, and you're getting the quality part, you know. But anyhow, I'm not cussing anybody, but I wish that they would carry a little bit more in that in the higher performance stuff. I don't know if it's too small to store, that's not, doesn't have a following to go that way. It seems like they have that whole row of garbage bling crap that I don't understand. That's one aisle that is, of course, opposite of what I consider the higher performance stuff, where you can get the gauge sets and all that stuff. And it's like, man, it doesn't make no sense to me. I don't ever turn around and look at that stuff. I don't get it. But that's me. There is a torque. Actually, there you do torque these down. Right now, I'm just snugging them up, and I'll get the torque because I have to go back to from quarter to 3/8 drive, or actually 1/2 inch drive. When you think about it, I don't have a small enough torque wrench to. I mean, without stepping down with a couple of different sizes, if you follow me on that, so to drop down. Okay, guys, that's oil pump install. I'll get the torque specs and torque that down here in a minute. I'll just do whatever I can do to make it work. I'm going to go ahead and start putting end covers on. I really need to put the windage tray on and the pickup tube. That way I know I get that thing bolted in the way it's supposed to. I thought about taking that end off, sticking that spacer, because like I said, it's on the internet. I just don't remember what it is. It's on YouTube, to find out what sizes, and I could up the pressure if I so chose. I have pretty good confidence that this motor is going to be fine. I don't know if I'll mess with it or not, but that is an option. If you really would like to, to change your pressure, you can do it that way. But anyway, I'm going to get the seals put in, the front and rear seal, get the windage tray, the pickup tube on, and then get the oil pan, get it all sealed up. Again, most of that stuff was on the 4.8. I'm not going to bore you with all that. Probably put the lifters in, get the heads. I'd like to get all that done today before I got to go to work, so I can kind of seal this motor up. There'll be a couple of open holes, like where the cam sensor is. I believe the crank sensor hole will be open. I do need to plug a couple of holes, obviously water pump holes. Those can actually be taped up with some masking tape or something. But I'm going to plastic bag the thing up too. I just don't want anything getting in those holes till I get this chance to get that primer bought. I may have said on another video, I'm just not sure yet. I've got a couple of guys here local now that tunes. One of them was pretty reasonable. The new guy, he's kind of at 3 1/4, which isn't unreasonable, but it's an awful lot of money for me. There's a guy by, I can't remember his name for sure, but it's lt1swap.com. I think his name's Jared out of Missouri. I'm not sure. He actually got a PayPal deal. You buy it now off of his website, which he actually shows you how to pin out. And I'm sure I've said this on other videos. He shows you how to pin out pretty much any year now of LS trucks and stuff like that, of what you don't need, what you need to pin out, what you need to keep, and what you need to do to even LT1 stuff. That's kind of how he got his start, is those. But anyway, he also did, I had an iPad and 2 iPads going. I can't remember what, I think one to keep one picture up and the other one to keep what you're supposed to pin out. And I took that wiring harness clear apart in my living room, in my den actually, and de-pinned everything I didn't need and put it all together, sent him the computer. At the time, this was 3 years ago. I don't know what his price is now. I have not sent him anything because I haven't really done anything. You send him the computer, it was 80 bucks 3 years ago. And you send him the computer, he unlocks the security, he unlocks the emissions, and he'll give you a small tune because he cannot decipher what kind of stuff you have. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're going to run a turbo or anything aftermarket, big cams, or change the compression or whatever, he can't tune for that. That you need a dyno tune for. You can't guess on that kind of stuff, or at least some type of live data with somebody sitting with a computer in his hand. Watching that and then making the adjustments as needed. But he did a real good job. It was inexpensive. I had the computer back in 3 to 5 days. Depends on how busy he is. Sometimes it could be a little longer. Sometimes it might even be a little shorter. Depends on where you're at. But for the price, man, I could not beat it. And thing worked great right out of the box. I actually had it retuned, thinking that I had a problem because the thing kind of seemed like it didn't have any power. I come to find that it was my stupidity. that caused it. If I would have done a little more research, I would have realized that that was my problem. And by that time, I'd already I overcompensated, and I should have done it with my 5.3 that is in that Malibu. Number one is, and I know this has nothing to do with this 5.3 build, but I'm sure I've gone through this before on another video. I just can't remember which one. When you do a swap, understand that this is 325 cubic inch. If you're putting a stock 5.3 in a 5,000 or 6,000 pound four-wheel drive pickup, and you're running a turbo 350, turbo 400, or whatever, and you got a little tall gear or whatever, this is not the engine you want unless you're going to really change the gears or put an overdrive transmission in. This is a very small engine. You get a lot more out of a big block or a modified like a 383 or 400 small block. You get a lot more bottom end torque, and that's where these shine is top end, but they don't do very good on the bottom. They weren't designed for bottom ends. I mean, they are, but specifically for the vehicle that it was in. So when you look at how well these run in a two-wheel drive pickup, it's got a 373 rear gear and weighs 5,000 pounds or whatever, and an overdrive transmission and stuff like that, it absolutely does really well in there. But what my mistake was that I also pinned out everything for the overdrive transmission for the 4L60. And so by placing my 300,000 mile 5.3 with no modifications done to it in a 4,700 pound car with a turbo 350 and a 287 rear gear and a 28 inch tall tire, it's fast, but it is not quick. Yes, I can make it spin the tires. Yes, if you get her wound up, boy, it'll lay it down. You'll over rev it, as a matter of fact, if you're not careful and shift fast enough. But you can't just do it blindly like at will. You have to make it do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying this is a bad combination. I'm saying it did not work well in my situation with the gear. If I could change the gear to a 308, to still make it highwayable, if a 342 would even be better. If you're just going to mess around in town, a 410, would be fine. But without the overdrive, then you're very limited on what the car is going to be capable of anywhere else. So with a 287 gear and a turbo 350 at 65 miles an hour, I'm still pulling 2,400 on the tack, 2,500, somewhere around that range. So it's fine on the highway, and it does okay on fuel mileage. But it would be better with an overdrive transmission, a little bit lower gear, where I could get more bottom end for more fun, might as well just admit it, but still be able to pull a highway with a lockup torque converter at 2,300. I'd rather have it there. Even 2,000 isn't bad running, 65, 70 miles an hour. You're doing okay at that. But again, you got to build a car. You have to plan. You have to plan on what the car's intent's going to be. If you need something as a daily driver, you don't want something with a 456 gear and a power glide. It's just not going to do you any good if you're going to do a daily driver. It will work. It's just not going to be very user friendly, especially if you decide to lose the fuel injection and carburet it and stuff like that and have a big stall. It's just no fun if you got to take it down the road. And then in the same token, the other way around is if you want something that's a lot of fun, but it's set up for highway use like mine is, it's really not fun either, So I'm sorry I'm sitting there yakking, but when you plan an engine, plan it all. Do lots of research. Figure out what your plan and your end goal is before you decide which one of these to use if you're going to do an all-out swap. And if you can, if it's a 3-speed, 2 or 3-speed automatic, try to get a two-wheel drive 4L60 or $700 and get the right flex plate for it. And whatever you need to make that shift and do whatever, depends on what year it is. Some of that's expensive. It's somewhat easier just to go ahead and use the newer 4L60 that come with the LS. But that's my suggestion. If you're going to want the best of both worlds, definitely run an overdrive. All right, I'm out of here.